Like I said, I'm Chris Christian. I'm the chairman of the Board of Education, and I want to thank you for providing this opportunity for us to come and speak. I'm going to be very brief, get you all up to speed of where we're at from a school system standpoint. But I'll kind of say thanks for that bit of history. I've been around Hawkins County all my life and very familiar with Phipps Bend, and didn't know that much of the history of how it got started with a governor coming and pounding his fist on the desk and say, "Tell me what you want." So I appreciate that. What we're needing for the Hawkins County's entire system is an opportunity to have our children, our students, have a place to run cross-country events. And I want to share with you that it's not only middle school and high school at this point, but our board has just voted to incorporate elementary level cross-country for the activities. And I've asked Ms. Erica Phillips to come, and maybe if you had any questions pertaining to, well, why are we getting the younger children involved, she could answer those questions. But where we're at right now, we've looked at the possibilities of other locations for a cross-country course within this county. We've looked at Laurel Run Park, ideal place. It's level, it's along the river, there's parking, there's restrooms. The downside to that is there's tremendous safety issues with getting buses down the narrow road. Now, can that be worked around? I'm sure it can. The other venue that could have been a possibility is maybe the city of Churchill's developing a 60-acre park along the river there at Halston Mills. That, in my discussions with some of the officials at the city of Churchill, there's not a whole lot of interest in that because they're not sure what plans are going to take place there. And we are open to any other suggestions as far as a venue for a cross-country track, let's call it. We've had some meets up there before. They were very successful. The competition was really good. Our schools from the entire region came and ran on it. I personally spoke with some of the coaches that were there. They loved it. The athletes loved it because it's level. There's cross-country courses in East Tennessee. Daniel, over in Gray, there's cross-country course there, and in Bristol, I'm thinking there's a cross-country course. And the one in Bristol I'm familiar with, it's more of a park, and they just incorporate the course through the park. But what we're here today for is just to ask for your consideration of the possibility of us using only property owned by the industrial board. We're not looking to go over on any other properties that could be used for industrial development. And there have been some maps. Coach Jim Alshot shared with me some maps that he's put together that it's very, very workable to stay in that one section of where the horseback riding takes place, the bicycle riding takes place, and it's all along the river. Parking would not be an issue. The logistics for getting people in and out wouldn't be an issue. But that's where we're at this point. We're seeing a lot more participation in cross-country at the high schools, and that in turn will create more participation from the middle schools. And now that we're going to incorporate the elementary schools, we just need a place to host these events. Now, there's a lot of logistics that goes with this, but I'm not going to stand here and take up all y'all's time. We're really just asking for your consideration to sit down. If you're interested, we'll put a committee together, sit down with you guys and work out the logistics. But we're staying within the boundaries of the floodplain that can't be used for industrial development and would not be a hindrance to any of the manufacturing facilities or businesses within Phipps Bend. That's really it. Just asking for your consideration, and if we could move forward with this, I think the citizens and mostly our students would benefit a great deal from having this opportunity. And I know we've been down this road before. I don't want to be a hindrance to this industrial board. I just want to be helpful to the county itself and our school system. And I'm here to represent the school system and the students. Any questions? If not, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time. And please just give this some consideration. And if you could let me know either way, or get in touch with Matt, our director, or Mr. Floyd, or Brandon, let them know what your all's thoughts are. But that's our goal. We'll do a course right along the river in the floodplain and not be an interruption to any day-to-day activities.
Chris, thank you for that, and Lord knows I want to put this thing to bed too. I've been dealing with Coach Elshire. I've been retired over 6 years. I met with him originally when I was still working. So this is not a short-term decision that's been made. I've been dealing with it, as has this board and our industrial boards, for close to 7 years. And as you know, for the benefit of those that may not know, we did host an event or two down there. And there was, I'm sure, good participation from other areas. The one thing that left us kind of with a sour taste in our mouth, they brought in porta potties and things, and over 2 years later, I finally had to have Rebecca pay to have those things removed.
If I may address that, sir.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Porta potties are rented. And this is a real story. Used to do a haunted barn at my home for 10 years to raise funds, and I rented from a local porta potty company, and that's been better than 15 years. And I still have that porta potty at my place because I've called and said, come and pick it up, come and pick it up. Now there's just some things. Now I didn't know that you all were incurring you incurred a fee for having those removed. I was not aware of that. But now, we are at the mercy of the owners of those porta potties. Most importantly, I forgot to mention, and I'm glad you reminded me of this, if your consideration for allowing us to do this, that Hawkins County Schools, Mr. Floyd, help me out here, we're going to be willing to fund the development of this course and maintaining this course. So it wouldn't be any expense to this industrial board or the taxpayers of the county other than through the school system. And but I would have to take this back to my board. It's like when you said the governor come in and tell me what you need. We need to kind of know where you guys are going to be standing on this, and then we can be making plans and amending our budget in order to fund this. So we can make plans of what we need to do.
Okay, I appreciate that. I'd like to hear, I guess, from some of the other board members as to this, because like I say, we need to put this thing to bed. I don't think that like I say, for almost 7 years, I've had calls from congressmen, from TVA high officials, from everybody under the sun wanting to know what the problem is here in Hawkins County, that we can't, work something out. And, we need to take into consideration, everybody's opinion and finally put this thing to bed once and for all for the benefit of everybody. Because like I say, nobody's been more supportive of education in Hawkins County than I have. Like I say, I've spent my time in the barrel as you all have, serving on the board, and I want the best for our children. And the two things that we keep in mind as our mission at the industrial board at the Phipps Bend is two things. to create jobs and to create tax base. That's it. There's no ulterior things that go on. We just, as long as we can do those two things, then, you know, those young people that you're educating, we can help find them a job and keep them here locally and improve the livelihood of everybody in Hawkins County. And that's our sole desire in purpose.
And I'm in agreement with that. We've not talked in a number of years, but you know, I'm in agreement with that, because if we can't create jobs, we can't keep the children here. That's important. But here again, I don't want to get into a great big, here's an example why we need it. You know why we need it. You guys know. Yes, sir.
Yeah, just a couple of questions. I've been involved in economic development since 1983 as a volunteer. I've supported education. I support, you look at all the youth programs that's going on, I'm writing checks. I have two nephews that run cross country. I have a granddaughter that's now running cross country in the 3rd grade. Very much a support. How I look at this is not a long-term solution for you, because Phipps Bend is not a long-term solution, because every time we have a prospect that comes in, they're asking about that floodplain and the protection there. And so, in every month or every time we have a meeting, we're facing vandalism, cutting fences, tearing down roads. So how do you propose to come up with a budget that's going to protect the vandalism that occurs so you can continue to have the meets and also be ready to disband? Is that not a bad investment
I'm gonna
to put in on something that we may sell tomorrow?
I want to go backwards on that.
Okay.
Anytime we're investing in student opportunities, it's not a bad investment, in my opinion. I understand what you're saying about vandalism, how you're saying, okay, how are we going to budget for vandalism? How's the horseback riders budgeting for?
They're trespassing, okay?
Oh, horses aren't allowed?
Well, that is private property. They are trespassing. It's not open for them, but they do it. People come down and hunt on the property. That's trespassing.
And the bicyclists, the joggers, the walkers, it's not open. Sir,
on the county roads, but I'm talking about the other surrounding property.
I'm talking about the trails along the river.
Trespassing, is that correct?
Well, it's trespassing because but we allow it, I guess. It's, you know, we don't discourage people from walking through there. We don't encourage horseback riding, but we allow it. It's been going on since day
I've done it
one.
myself. I've been down there many times.
It's a good, beautiful area to enjoy the nature and things like that. You know, we're talking about something that Ronnie remembers very well. We had the duck hunters and the deer hunters that wanted to come in. They were in there poaching on illegally shooting high-powered rifles. The Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency wanted us to give them that property. And we could not see our way clear to do that, because then we lose control of that as buffer areas and stuff. We've had the industry that wanted to locate in Phipps Bend. I remember the sodium azide plant, which is the powder that goes in the airbags. We turned them down. The county commission was 100% behind that project, so we faced a lot of controversy through the years, because we've had to shut down all the other industries if the sodium azide plant built there. We had Ducks Unlimited wanted us to donate that area for a wildlife preserve. This is not the first time we've dealt with this.
And I agree with you. And here's my other answer is this. I think we would be, as a board, would be willing to expend what funds would be necessary to build a course. and in turn, sign an agreement, if this course ever become a hindrance to industry or creation of jobs within Hawkins County, we're gone. But until that point, we need to provide that opportunity for our student athletes.
Can I ask a question there, Judy Trim? When I was listening to your two things, to create jobs and to create a tax base, so I kept thinking, how are we going to do that with a track course? And I couldn't come up with that answer, so it would take me a long time to work that out in my mind. But I know, as a retired teacher, that sports and academics go together. You're teaching a schedule, you're teaching determination, you're teaching a child to work. Because just like playing an instrument, you have to work to master that. And I think that's what we're trying to get at with this cross country. I had a grandson that also ran cross country in the middle school, and we went to Greenville and ran in a pasture field. Was actually what he ran in, a pasture field. And I thought, but it was all hills, and it was hard. I think he probably came in last because I think he just wanted girls to look at him. I'm not really sure, but it was really hard. This cross-country track would be fantastic for our kids. I understand what you're saying about the floodplain. Would industries like to be on that floodplain? If I'm going to put out a garden,
No, we can't, nothing can be built on.
Right.
But
Okay,
they would
and it
still need
wouldn't be
access
our
for whatever
property.
reason.
We're not asking for the property.
No,
We're
we're
just
just
asking
asking
to
for-
use the property.
Mm-hmm.
Now, an actual cross-country track is just a track, a trail.
It's a trail. It
basically.
can't be paved. It'd be put in grass,
Right.
technically.
The porta potties, I'm really sorry about that because, we didn't know. We didn't know that it cost you money or we
And
would have
we'd
taken
be
care of that.
willing to reimburse you for that, if that be the case.
That's been several
But-
years back.
Yeah.
The shallow water drainage ponds left by TVA might prove useful to an industry to allow water to cool and go back into the river. And
Right.
thereby they would likely want to retain ownership and management of those to resolve problems with EPA
And I agree with what you're saying.
and
That's
that
why,
sort of thing.
that's
So
why
that might well go with a deed with a large industry
And if-
where that,
and if that be the case, we move out.
okay.
We move out.
Because it's not going to be a big expense to create a trail, is it?
No.
Some other questions I have, of course, busing might become an issue with all the heavy truck traffic and time of use with shift changes at the park. We've got sometimes trouble with traffic and that sort of thing now going in the park, so that needs to be a consideration for the school system should it come about as well. After these one or two events that we had down there before, we had a real increase in unwanted visitors. We had students, well, I won't call them students, that maybe just recent graduates, some students. They were, we had a group parking in the rear parking lot of the TCAT Center, and another group that imported four-wheelers. If y'all know what a razor is, close to the ground, they were doing donuts and making it really difficult for us to maintain and mow the abandoned truck driving school that's immediately behind there. We also had a big uptick in the number of people that were visiting the reactor building. We've had this problem all along, as we mentioned earlier, but there was a big increase. And from the cameras, pictures and that sort of thing, they appeared to be people under 30. Some of them probably students, some of them, college students.
But yeah,
But we had a lot of unwanted visitors. As far as people riding horses, we have signs posted down there. We've told them they ride at their own risk. There's no public restrooms. And we have asked them, and many have obliged in taking out more trash than they bring in. We have people, bringing in trash bags and that sort of thing. But we did have a big uptick in that. We had people,
Well-
curtain climbers over at that building. Lots of things happened right after those events, and that was
And you're.
unwanted traffic.
associating The uptick with.
It possibly could have been. We don't know that for sure. We tried to contact law enforcement, and they couldn't get there by the time that they picked up and moved and that sort of thing.
The exposure to Phipps Bend could be positive on one hand.
It,
And what you're saying, it could be negative because of the exposure, more people's, oh, Phipps Bend, I didn't know that was here. I didn't know this was available to us. And I can't stop that, but I'm willing to work with you guys in considering us using this to answer these questions.
I'm just saying it's a consideration, all of
Yes.
that.
And that would have to be addressed.
And you mentioned looking at other sites, Laurel Run Park. What about Sir Jonesville Middle and Elementary School campus, where you would have public restrooms and parking, and
It's
I
not big
understand a
enough.
large campus.
I mean, I'm willing to go look at that, but
Okay.
I just don't think it's big enough. And
Would
I'm
that
open to
also-
any suggestions.
Would that also be a plus for the plants that live there or that have their businesses there, that their employees could use that track, that trail that we would create for their healthy benefits?
I don't know, I haven't seen the plan.
Well, when you're talking industry,
I'm thinking.
it could be a benefit. Could be. I'm just saying it could be a benefit because your employees could go out and get exercise during the workday. That's going to help on the insurance costs of the corporations. Possibly. Is this a good fit?
You got it.
No, it's not, but what other options do we have? When you were talking about building Phipps Bend, you didn't know what you needed, you didn't know how you was gonna make it work, but you made it work. You worked together to make it work.
We had a major master plan done right up front. It outlined what we needed to do.
But the governor didn't have to pound his fist on the table.
That was after we got Phipps Bend. He was up here for a
But-
different function.
I digress there. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm just asking for your consideration in considering these. And I've made yes, sir.
Is, part of what we discussed before was where the truck school property.
Won't be using that.
So, okay, that's trying to figure out.
Won't be using that. Like I said in my initial statement, we are determined and we'll guarantee we will stay on Phipps Bend property only to utilize this. And a cross-country course is not paved, it's along the river, grass seed, it can still be mowed for hay.
Do you anticipate using this just for meets, or is this also a practice
Could
facility?
be practice facility, and get our kids off the highways and the streets, because that's where we're currently running for practice.
What kind of liability, because like I said, this is not county-owned property.
We would carry, the school system has its own liability insurance. As a matter of fact, I think we have 2 liability coverages. And Mr. Elkins,
Property owner would be more liable.
Well, I'm afraid of, you know,
does the horseback riders have insurance? Does the bicyclists have insurance? Does the walkers, do the joggers, do they have insurance when they go out and use that
well,
facility?
as was pointed out, we do not encourage that. So I don't think we'd be liable for that. We've got signs up that they're doing that at their own risk and things. You're talking about a more formalized situation here than what the horseback rider would take on. And you're talking about an agreement, and Joel, I don't know.
Well, certainly the property owner could be held liable. I mean, there's no question about that. But there also could be potentially insurance naming Phipps Bend as an additional insured or some sort of indemnity agreement from the school system to hold Phipps Bend harmless. So, I mean, there's ways that, I mean, it's a legitimate concern 100%, but there's also ways that could, I think, effectively minimize that risk. And walkers and recreational users there's a statute in Tennessee that pretty much protects the property owners from liability in a lot of circumstances. So those are sort of apples and oranges situations, but if there was an insurance policy in place that named Phipps Bend as an additional insured that had pretty significant policy limits, I think that would go a long way toward protecting the joint venture.
Like I said earlier, we would be willing to sit down and work anything out. Because we're wanting to do this for the school system. But we're not looking for an answer today. We're not. And if you have any questions after I finally quit talking, you can get a hold of us. And we'll try to answer them.
You said you got a plan, you're gonna go all the way around the property?
It's going to be a loop. It'll just be there in the river bottoms.
All the way around the river bottoms?
No,
Just that one side,
yeah,
the east side?
yes,
Okay.
yeah. And I apologize. Coach Elshaw had a map, but I was assuming he was going to be here, and he wasn't here. And I can get you, if you would allow me, I'll go to the tax assessor's office, get them big 2 foot by 2 foot blow up, and do an overlay of what we're talking about and get that to you.
The reason I ask is because back there where TVA's got the substation, they own all the way. to
No,
the
we
river.
wouldn't be
We
going.
wouldn't go.
No, we wouldn't even come
Be
close to that.
trespassing on TVA.
Let me get you all that information.
That's why I brought that up, because I didn't know it was gonna go all.
No. This would be, you do 2 laps. You do 2 laps. So, if I can get you that information, and I'll try to have that for you by the end of the week, give it to you. And that may help you understand better what we're talking about, but I just want to,
But where would you park?
that will be on the map also.
I mean, you're gonna have to park on dry land somewhere.
Right.
It's
And
not-
there's a parking area that's on Phipps Bend property, and it's gravel. And it's down below, the forge, that forge company.
PMT, we used to be PMT Barat now.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And it would be below there. And at these other cross-country courses that I've been to, buses would come in, drop their student athletes off, then go to another site to park, just like they do at ETSU. I was over at a track meet this past weekend. Buses come in, pull into the loop at the mini dome, drop their athletes off, and then go
Or
park.
they won't park then everywhere else, because everywhere else is parking is controlled by the industry and TCAT then. So you're gonna.
I'm just saying, if they do, they would,
Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying,
Go out.
where do they go? So they're leaving the park entirely, you're saying then? Go
if they need to, and then come back and pick their athletes up. There's a lot of logistics to it. I agree with you. There's a ton of logistics. But until we can sit down and, we just need to know what your all's feelings are.
One more question. You talked about Laurel Run being a great location, parking, everything, but the roads. Have you talked to the county or anyone about fixing the roads
No.
for better
Not yet. Not yet.
access?
Now, the
I
parking.
see that as a more permanent.
Oh, I agree. But when I mentioned it, the safety concern was very, very, very strong about buses being on that road.
Now, there's 1,000 signs about what you can't do in Laurel Park, but
That's true. That's true.
one maybe you can't run.
And you know, the city of Churchill in a number of years may be receptive to using that area. We don't know. They're very, very, very behind. Their plan for that area up there has not been set yet. They don't know exactly what they're going to do. And if you're not familiar with that, the city of Churchill bought that 60-some acres there. And, you know, that could be a possible venue at some point.
Maybe look at Riverside Park in Schoolsville where it's all flat along the river. Is there enough area or is there not?
There's really not enough area. And you don't want, you're in cross country, you don't want to be running on asphalt.
Well, no, but it's not all asphalt, it's all.
Well, that's something that we didn't need to-
It's all grass.
And we'll be more than willing, I'll get with Coach Alshire and see if he'll.
Parking there.
Yeah.
Those programs, everything.
Yeah.
There is, that goes quite a ways down through there.
You know, we're just looking for a venue that's going to be comfortable for everyone involved.
Like I said, they already have all the facilities there too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
oh, that's true, that's true. Any other questions? And there's tons of them, but let me get you a map and so you can see a picture's worth 1,000 words and see what we're planning to do and move forward from there. And like I said, we're not looking for an answer today, just a consideration so we can make plans. 'Cause until we know how you guys feel, it's hard for us to plan, but we'll go take a look at Rogersville Park. I'll do that today. So if nothing else, we'll end here. Thank you for your time.
Anybody else have any questions for Chris? Chris, I thank you all for joining in, and like I say, if there's some way of putting this thing to bed after 7 years, you know, I'm very willing to do it. I don't know how else, we've taken this up on, as you know, on numerous occasions, and the answer's always been the same, but, you know, it sounds as if maybe the parameters have changed somewhat in what you was expecting. You know, one time we met with you, you were talking about soccer fields and all these other things.
Oh, many moons ago, we're going to use the TCAP property and.
Yeah.
That was many
So,
moons ago.
it's, like I say, we've got issues with truck traffic and like I say, a lot of traffic up there.
That's a good thing.
It doesn't seem to be conducive to kids, but
I understand.
we can certainly take it under advisement, get that information to Rebecca, and we'll take it up at our next meeting, and then we'll let you know
Yeah,
one way or the other, and then put it to bed.
I agree. That's all we're asking for.
All
I found
right.
out a lot of information from you all that I didn't know today. So I appreciate this industrial board about how up to date you all are.
Well, we try to stay that way. This is not, this group is the Phipps Bend, but, you know, we've got the other industries in Bulls Gap and at Rogersville, and then you mentioned Holliston Mills, and then we just finished up one of the largest projects we've had was Cardinal Glass taking over the glass plant. We've got a lot on our plate, and this item has been a long-running situation as I've ever dealt with, and
If we can, we can. If we can't, we can't.
and that's all I would say. We'll give it every consideration. We want to do what's best for everybody concerned. You're never going to have another opportunity for an industrial park in Hawkins County in our lifetimes. That's one thing that a lot of people don't realize. If you set out to build an industrial park like we have there and like they've got at Tri-Cities or at the one between Washington County and Sullivan County, you're looking at probably $50 million to put all the assets together to pull that off. Plus, the disruption of all the many farmers. You know, if somebody had something on there showing the cooling tower base the other day, and then I was reading on Facebook all the comments, and they were saying, well, you should have given that property back to the landowners that, you know, that may have farmed the Phipps Bend area 50 years ago. You know, I can't rewrite what went on back in the 70s when that thing was started. I did work there at Aladdin back when it was in full force. There was 3,500 employees traveling in and out of there every day. I don't know how many we're having moving in and out of there every day. We've got all the reports, but there's a tremendous amount of traffic, especially
Almost 20,000 a week.
20,000 a week. Just off the top of your head, that doesn't sound conducive to kids and running and things of that nature, but maybe there's accommodation there, I don't know. But we'll take it under advisement and see what we can
And
do.
I'll get you that map. And, last note, that reactor tower, we put a dome on that thing. Yeah, heck of an arena.
Well, I took, Senator Al Gore up there one day. Ronnie was out of town and they called and said Senator Gore wanted to tour it. And so he and I got down there in that reactor, or in the, cooling tower base, and, it's an amazing place, but you can fall a hole in that thing and lose yourself.
Oh,
So it's a dangerous place, and that's one of the things that we don't want to encourage, as Kerry said, any more people getting into issues down there, but, we'll certainly take it under advisement. Thank you all for